Let's get some fresh international perspective to the issue in Hong Kong. Global affairs analyst Calvin Dark is live for us now for Expert's View on this. Thank you very much for joining us at this time. What do you make of this so-called clampdown on protesters?
Well, I think it's a further sign that mainland China is not giving 1 inch to the protesters or to pay attention to any of the measures that the protesters have asked for. And when I saw the first news about the protest leaders, organizers being arrested, I really kind of wondered, would this clamp down on the expected or planned march for tomorrow, or would it not? And officially, I've read that the march has been canceled. But as the leaders themselves said, this is a leaderless movement. They are more icons of the movement. And I have a hard time believing that the hundreds of thousands, even at one point over 1 million protesters, won't come out and protest just because of the arrest. But it is a strong intimidation tactic.
Yeah, yes, and you just mentioned a crucial point as well that's also, being reflected in others, talking about what's been called a rudderless protest. How much of an issue is it that it appears this protest doesn't seem to have a direction or leadership?
Well, I think on the one hand, it is good and is a very strong signal to mainland China that this is something that is important to all the people of Hong Kong, or the vast majority of them, not just a particular banned party or a few activists. But now the other side of that coin is, as they make their demands, and let's say, for example, the central government in China decided to discuss, granting some of their demands. Without the leadership, it's going to be really hard to make sure that any agreements take place that will appease the millions of people in Hong Kong that want to see a change. So it's a benefit, but it's also a disadvantage.
Looking at the protests then, we've seen the protests since evolve from the Carrie Lam angle. Now we are seeing the protesters making more wider demands. How realistic do you view them?
Well, I think what they've realized is that with Lam, yes, she represents the power of Beijing and Hong Kong, but it's greater than her. And given that the Central Chinese government hasn't even indicated a step towards even one of their demands, investigation of the police clashes, definitive withdrawal of the extradition bill, and I think there were 5 total. Given that mainland China hasn't even given an inch on those, I don't see that happening in the near future.
Looking at the intervention that you would like to see the Chinese government bring in to play here, what would it be for you?
Well, what I would like, particularly as an American, is that at the same time, as you know, there's a trade dispute with the United States, and there are people in the United States government, Republican and Democrat, that are saying this is an opportunity to not only end the trade war, but to get China to loosen up and improve some of its human rights practices. However, I have a strong opinion that Donald Trump will not delve into that, because protection of human rights in China is not his priority, because he sees this as an economic struggle. So I would hope that the U.S. and other world leaders in the international community would help the protesters in Hong Kong by making sure that China knew we don't want a repeat of Tiananmen Square or other clashes from the past.
Oh, all right. Calvin, thank you very much for your analysis. Calvin Dark there talking about the protests in Hong Kong and its implication for the rest of the world. Thank you very much again.